you guys want to send us jerseys, we'll wear them in the next episode. We will have the Arrow episode.
The Arrow episode. Maybe Russ will do that.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bikes and Bourbon. I'm Russ from Path Less Pedaled.
And I'm Toffer from Pedal Missoula.
And like always, we're going to talk bikes and taste some bourbon. And I'm excited because we actually have bike stuff to talk about in this episode instead of just
we've had bike stuff to talk about, but it's been more of our own personal feelings,
right,
about things that have been going on.
It's bike feels.
Yeah, Eurobike happened. So some companies like Cane Creek had some interesting stuff come out.
Yeah,
they had a nice Glencairn with some whiskey in it. And
speaking of whiskey, let's not jump the gun here, buddy.
Let's. For those of you who are drinking at home, like this is a bourbon book club. Stay up to date on what we're drinking. You can drink with us.
So I actually don't know too much about Michters. I know that they make good stuff.
My pores are getting sloppier here.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We've only just started.
We've only just I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So it's a straight bourbon. Nothing crazy. It's small batch, so I mean it's more
artisanal.
Yeah. The alcohol is not very high. It's like a 45 or something, but it's like kind of comes at me still.
It's a little bitey.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, I get
a little bit here.
I get less like that bourbon sweetness and more like kind of wood and dark fruit, which I kind of like. It's less like candied sugar in your mouth and something more nuanced.
I'm getting some like new things that I don't normally get, and like one of the things has kind of like a syrupy.
It's a little on the thick side, you mean?
On the thicker side,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, not syrupy. Not those flavors, but just the
consistency.
Consistency is a little bit.
It's good. Like I think if I didn't know that this was a bourbon, I think I would have associated this with the Riegers, J. Riegers, kind of similar flavors. Yeah. But pretty good. Good job, Michters.
Yeah. No, this is a nice one. We'll let it linger here, and we'll.
Yeah. No king of the bourbon, so we had to drain the coffers to buy this bottle. So if you want to contribute, you can either send a bottle directly as a gift, or PayPal and tell us what we should get.
Yeah.
If you guys actually want like legit whiskey reviews, go to the Whiskey Vault. You will see some similarities because I fully admit being obsessed with their channel.
Yeah.
And what's cool about it is they talk about whiskey, but in a real non-pretentious way, real accessible way.
Right.
And I saw that and was like, why isn't there something like that for bikes? So I wanted to do a bike version of that and use bourbon as a hook.
Yeah. It's like when all the people went to see the Sex Pistols and then started their own punk bands.
Right.
Like we watched Whiskey Vault and we were like,
that is amazing.
That's cool. Let's do that. So Eurobike happened recently. There was a few.
It's like the Interbike, but for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Basically, less strippers.
No Vegas. Maybe the less sexy of the two is WTB coming out with doing some modifications to their rims to make them more tubeless friendly.
You mean they're not they don't just magically seat themselves?
No, tires do not magically. I mean, unless you go pay somebody at your local bike shop to do it.
See, that's the thing. So one of the videos I made on the channel was all the foibles and problems I had mounting tubeless.
Right.
And it's amazing how many people read me the riot act. It's like, oh, they're easy. You're just doing it wrong. But I mean, they're kind of admitting that transitioning to tubeless is probably not the easiest thing sometimes.
Right. I mean, they've come out with there's a strip in the middle to help protect, or that covers up the spoke holes so that you don't get as much rub and your tape doesn't wear down, and then which would then cause there to be a place where air could leak out.
Yeah.
And they're also just their tape, and then their tape itself. I think they're doing something, but it looks really cool because it looks like their tape is doing things to help make wrapping your rims easier, so that hopefully things will pop into place better. On the first try, the first beer, the first.
I do appreciate that because it's like when I first did my first tubeless conversion, I totally underestimated how much tape it would take. Right. I didn't buy enough, and I didn't apply it correctly, and like working with bikes for years, like how hard could this be? But there's definitely like technique.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's cool to see a company kind of understanding that people are wanting to make that transition,
Making
and kind
it
of
easier.
developing some products and pushing their products that they already have. So I mean, I don't believe they released. I think they did some new tires.
Yeah.
But this is just kind of them modifying products they already have. And then Cane Creek.
Yeah, so Cane Creek, they came out with, I don't know, they're bar ends for road bikes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, just bar ends. Yeah, but they're
what's-
super lightweight.
Yeah.
What caught my eye was that they actually had in the marketing. So I think their the marketing is something like "keep it neat" or
Right.
something, and then they have a Glencairn with some whiskey in it.
Right.
And it was just nice to see like a company.
Yeah.
It's like clearly they know what's up with the whiskey.
Yeah, Cane Creek, we see your pun.
We salute you.
Cheers. I wonder if any Cane Creek employees are a fan of the show. Maybe inspiration.
Yeah. And then Cane Creek also had
Seat post, supple seat
oh,
post.
the supple seat post.
Yeah.
If you're into suspension seat post, Cane Creek came out with one that like they had an old one. Cane Creek bought out like a smaller company that
Thudbuster, right? Was that them?
yeah, well, they had the Thudbuster,
Okay.
and then this new one is like them
Okay.
updating it. They cut off like a bunch of grams if you are into having more lightweight gear.
So like,
It could be nice to have that sometimes. I mean, especially like when you are like talking about like half of a product's weight. Like that's could be like
it's significant.
yeah, you're not like shaving 10 grams here or there. Like
And
you're
I have to admit, like I've been familiar with Thudbuster, and lots of people say we should try it. But I have been kind of put off by, not that I'm a weight weenie, but it looks like a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
can go on your bike.
Well, I mean, some of that suspension stuff, like the stuff that you have, like the stem that you've tried out.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is like I just don't like a lot of moving parts on my bike, like
Yeah.
just because that's more stuff to break.
Right.
Or more stuff that I would break. But the suspension, it's like, yeah, lighter weight, though it does, I think, lose some travel.
Okay.
So it's only 20,
Instead of 30.
yeah, 30
Yeah.
or more, I guess.
I think that makes sense. Like, I mean, I like suspension bits when it's not trying to make something a mountain bike that isn't, but it's
Sure.
just to kind of take the edge off.
Right.
You know.
Right, and so, but yeah, so apparently lightweight kind of looks, I mean, once again, the suspension seat posts look kind of svelte. You don't really always tell. The mechanism for that is not some huge thing. It kind of is
Yeah.
there. So some interesting stuff coming out of Eurobike.
Ghost Bikes, I think debuted their gravel bike, which they, for better or for worse, called it Road Rage.
So it goes.
So there's that.
Yeah.
I do have to say one trend that I'm seeing that I'm not too fond of actually in the gravel bike space
Yeah.
is that they're kind of becoming less useful. Like now that there's a lot of like road influence, like one of the things I loved about gravel bike, for better or for worse, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
is that a lot of them are still utilitarian. Like they
Right.
had the bigger tires, but they were quick, but there were options to mount things.
Yeah.
And like the new bike by Look, but I think by Ghost, like they get rid of any possibility for fender mounts or rack mounts. So
We want to go adventurizing.
yeah, I mean,
Or
so this is one of the
Pack biking. And,
yeah. I mean, I saw someone
All the words.
had made a comment on Twitter that if once road really jumps on gravel, is gravel gonna jump the shark? Are there wacky, quirky elements that are gonna be lost in that process? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably to some people.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did you see
Handlebars.
that wacky drivetrain by Ceramic Speed?
I did.
That is wild. Like I saw that. I was like, I don't even know what's going on there. It looks like a flux capacitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ridden a shaft-driven bike?
I'm not.
No. All right. So I'm gonna go for
Yeah, I
another
can-
one. I'm actually really liking this. Like I feel like it's.
Yeah.
I like that it's not like super sweet. I like things that are kind of surprising. That kind of challenge expectations.
Besides being kind of like that fuller body that I was saying, it's not sweet, you're right, but there is something that like makes it smoother or drinkable. I mean, I don't know if that's just the fuller body that's kind of coming out, and
Good stuff.
we'll keep going here. We're moving on to one of our favorite. If there's like two pillars of the supple life, like on one side is probably where we descend from, maybe more. We're like just Riv Bike,
Right.
Rivendell.
So Riv Bike, Grant Peterson.
And then on the other side is
Bicycle Quarterly.
Bicycle Quarterly.
Jan Heine.
Yeah. That's like, that's the parents. That's the bike parents.
And Jan has a blog, so he does put up some content beyond just BQ.
I just remember there was a while where Russ and I were talking about coming up with like a Jan has a posse stickers, and then just Jan has a blog.
So speaking of which, I'm still considering doing T-shirts of either Grant has a posse or Jan has a posse. I'm gonna put up the 2 images. You guys vote and let us know which one we should turn into T-shirts.
So yeah, Jan has a blog. Which,
maybe that should be the shirt. Jan has a blog.
Jan has a blog. He's been going through. I mean, so one of the things that Bicycle Quarterly does, like they've always kind of done, is push people's preconceived notions, expectations for kind of like what the industry at large might be saying,
Right.
with regards to different types of just his tires,
Right.
where he at first was kind of telling people, hey, those narrow tires aren't maybe making you as fast as you think, or you know,
Right.
you're not actually as aero, you're not getting some of the benefits. Here are some other ways that
Right.
wider tires could be beneficial. So he's definitely like always kind of pushed people to re-examine
Right.
their preconceived notions about what some myths that so he has these
Mythbusters. He's myth-busting.
He's myth-busting on the blog.
So one of them, like the latest one was, he was kind of waxing about, early gravel bikes, the widest you'd see would be 32. And now, it's more common to see 48 to 50.
Yep.
Like how big are they gonna get?
Right.
But he also brings up the point that, supple trumps width in terms of like,
And supple meaning
the casing.
The casing, like
right.
what the
side of the tire.
Yeah, the side of the tire kind of that can be different. That itself can be wider.
Right. And he
the thickness of that casing.
And he posits this idea that a 28 millimeter tire with supple casing will feel more compliant than, say, like a 40 millimeter commuter tire.
Right. So we should note here, if nuance and subtlety are not your things, stop watching right now, because Jan does not like traffic in this is the answer that will help everybody. He definitely finds this path where you would say, I think most people are like, oh yeah, wider's better because it's you can lower the pressure more usually.
Right.
But then he says, hey,
he says opposite. It's like,
casing matters.
Yeah, width in of itself doesn't mean you're gonna get a supple tire. And this is true, before the wider supple tire thing caught on, I'd get a big wide tire, 35, 38.
Right.
That was built for commuters, so it had the reflective strip, but was also overbuilt. So it felt like a dead tire. And even if you let air out on a tire like that, it's still gonna have that kind of dead wooden feel.
Right.
As opposed to, like he says, if you get a 28, which is a narrower tire, but with a more compliant casing, then that'll have a little bit more livelier feel to it. And I agree. I mean, having ridden wide commuter tires, I definitely understand what those feel like.
Though the trade-off is, of course, with casings, is that then you get sidewall punctures. So there's all these give and takes, but I do think it is helpful. And what I love about this argument also is that he just came out with a 700 by 55.
Right.
So it's right after Compass, which is Bicycle Quarterly's product wing.
Yeah.
Right after they come out with a super wide tire, he's like, but don't think that it's great just because it's wide.
Yeah.
It's also great because it's supple.
Right.
So
a lot of nuance.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that because there's no, again, I don't think there are any huge categorical imperatives. Not one thing works for everybody.
Right.
And it's kind of life is about navigating those choices.
Right. And which also I will be grateful that in 2018 he's still arguing that rim brakes aren't dead.
Right.
Which was another myth that he was trying to bust.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of compelling things to say about the fact that that rim brakes are almost like the original disc brake.
Yeah, because the rim in of itself is a disc. It works on the same principle.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
One of the points he brings up is when you have a disc brake, in particular the fork, the fork has to be a little bit more overbuilt to kind of absorb those forces. And what's interesting, if you look through our review of the Breadwinner, Breadwinner actually chimes in agreement, and they say, Chris Hart, the fork looks chunky, but part of it is necessary because you can't have like a small radius fork and disc brakes without it, kind of compromising, the fork essentially, like it would break.
Right. I mean, once again, there's a lot of nuance and subtlety here as far as, disc brakes. People can just talk about disc brakes, but then you can talk about, there's hydraulic versus mechanical. Of course, different companies, like the Paul Clamper was a really well-engineered mechanical disc brake, and I think that it would, in my mind, operates like very similarly performance-wise to a lot of hydraulic brakes. But I mean, there's a lot of there's
also the hybrid ones, like the TRP hybrids. Have you seen those, where it's like cable actuated, but inside the caliper there's actually a piston that has some kind of fluid, so it gives you kind of like the ease of maintenance of cables, but then still like the better stopping power.
And then when you talk about rim brakes, you're also, as you were discussing like in your Pack Rat review, that not all rim brakes are created equal. And so there's a lot of like variation here and like what people are talking about, and people might have experience with different styles of rim brakes, different quality builds, the engineering can be different, just kind of how they're, like I've always found Paul brakes, like rim brakes, to be amazing, and like my Crosscheck still has, because it's an old Crosscheck, it has rim brakes, and it's like
you haven't died yet?
No, it just says Paul, but it's like, I mean, not to just think that Paul is the most amazing bike company in the world, but I think that, their brakes are really popular and they work really well for a reason, and they're engineered to like perform.
Most of my bikes I've ridden have been rim brakes, and it wasn't until when we were living in Portland that it's like, oh, okay, there's actually like a functional performance difference in the wet.
Right.
But when we were living in like Southern California, it's like the rim brakes were plenty.
Right.
So I don't think like the Pack Rat. Interesting bike, great bike. It's actually, I think if that was available like 6 years ago, when I was looking at getting the All City Space Horse, I actually probably would have gone Pack Rat instead.
Yeah.
But rim brakes, I don't know.
That made me think of like Rivendell and Grant are so, they're very big proponents of rim brakes.
Right.
None of their bikes have disc brakes. And it's maybe because in California...
Oh, that's true. Like in Walnut Creek?
In Walnut Creek, maybe...
Not as wet?
Not as wet, or you can kind of get away with the rim brake, just their local riding, what influences their style.
The terroir of the bike design.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. if you think of like QBP, like where they're based, where the designers live, there's a reason why
Surly is a fat bike.
Right. Why like mass production fat bikes came out of them first. So I think it's makes sense.
So what we're telling you is run narrow tires on rim brakes.
Right. There you go.
Don't believe anything you've heard the previous episodes.
All lies.
All lies. This episode we're telling you, go back to 28s on supple casing with rim brakes. You'll be fine.
There you go. And wear a jersey. So I'm gonna bring it. Like I hate to do like troll comment of the episode, but there is one. It's no longer up. I deleted it because it was so annoying. But basically, the commenter was like, "You can ride slow, you can ride fast, but aerodynamics always win." And somehow because like Laura and I weren't wearing like jerseys, you didn't honor the event. And I love like someone's response when I posted that. They're like, what is like riding bikes like a country club? You didn't wear the right shirt, get out. So regardless, there's that. But I will say, if you guys want to send us jerseys, we'll wear them in the next episode. We will have the Aero episode.
The Aero episode. Maybe Russ will do that. I like my t-shirts.
No, you gotta do it too. I'm curious to see what ridiculous.
Can we can hold more bourbon?
That's true.
Easier access to bourbon.
In the pockets.
I don't have anywhere on this T-shirt to put bourbon.
That's true.
If I had a jersey on right now,
We've just been doing it wrong.
I could have had bourbon.
Yeah.
More easily accessible than this table in front of me.
Well, maybe the episodes would be that much quicker, just because we're in that era
get it
mindset.
out. Well, but then you're digging around in your pocket.
Right.
You're holding on one hand and trying to be like, wait, whoa, I put the banana on the other side, and then you gotta like switch over. Yeah, so coming up for the bike queue, you got, I see a Niner over there.
Yeah, Niner RLT, not to be confused with PLP or BLT, which is a sandwich, but RLT, road less traveled. Mozzie Rennur Special, or the Rando bike. So specifically a Jan Heine inspired bike by Mossy, which he actually reviewed in, I think, the spring issue of Bicycle Quarterly.
All right.
Which I've not seen yet, so I'm curious.
Yeah. Don't let it influence you.
I'm trying to like.
So.
Because having done these bike reviews, it's actually a tricky thing.
Right.
Because.
Well, yeah.
Especially I feel like for the breadwinner. Because there's something when you get like a nice bike,
right?
Like, is it?
And once again, we should, like, for people at home, Tony breadwinner did not like pay Russ more money or any money to say all these nice things. Like the breadwinner is truly like it's like a surprise nice thing.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I'm riding bikes.
Like, ooh.
And then it's like, whoa, this is not
a
typical. It's not your everyday thing. So.
Yeah.
It was truly, I think, like, I've talking to you about all these different bikes over the last several months. It's like the breadwinner has stuck out as one that is particularly exciting.
And it's one where, like, it was kind of challenging to review because knowing how much it costs and, like, it's a custom bike. Like, I don't want that to influence how I perceive how it feels.
Right.
It's almost easier to review a lower end bike because you have like such low expectations or no expectations. But like with
they're dealing with different constraints.
Right. So the breadwinner is just the right size that both Laura and I can ride it. So I had her ride it on our local loop the other day, and without prompting her, like she was able to pick out like some of the same things that was like. So that kind of confirmed like, oh, okay, I'm not just like making things up.
Yeah, every so often you gotta triangulate.
Need a control.
Figure out if you're...
Data point.
Yeah, so...
All right, well on that note...
Oh, hold on.
Oh, wait.
Hold on. Can't close the show out with an empty...
Oh, that's true.
With an empty glass here.
You're slacking, man. I think if we had jerseys, we'd be more on top of it.
Yeah, I would have gotten to
We'd be honoring the bourbon if we had jerseys.
I would have gotten to the bourbon a little bit 10% faster.
That's true. All right. So next time,
keep the supple side down.
Cheers.